computer. So hello everyone and welcome to today's workshop. I think this is really interesting and exciting, and Kelly's absolutely brilliant. She's been helping me a lot with my business and coaching me recently. So I'm really pleased to have her with us today. Lots of you will know her from other workshops she's run on social media and building your author platform. So she's got lots of experience in the publishing industry, but now she's helping authors get in the right frame of mind to write. We've allowed a little bit of time at the end for questions. So please do put your questions in the chat as we go along. We might have an opportunity for people to share a little bit as well. But yes, while we're here, why don't you all say hello in the chat? Say where you're dialing in from. Sarah's in Roehampton and Nicole's in Beckenham, and Helen, you're over in Guildford. So good to see everybody here. A couple of things to tell you about, just to say that if you know any writers that you think would benefit for being members of Bite the Book, then it's Christmas time at the moment, so you can give the gift of Bite the Book membership, and if you do that, you get a £20 voucher to use against your membership, or any events that you want to join. And also, if you recommend anyone to the network, then we give you a £20 voucher. So have a think about that. But the idea is to build as many members as possible. We think it's good for everybody to have lots of members. We're also trying out something called Member Surgery on the last Tuesday of every month. And that's where we give 15 minutes to any member who wants to come along and join us. We've got a Zoom link up for that. And we will be just anything you want to talk about. If you've got any questions, and if there's any connections you want to make or any advice, then we'll see what we can do. And then later that day, we've got a Bite Connects event, and that's going to be amazing. We've got Richard Charkin and Lorella Belli, an agent, Helen Bagnall, who runs the Also Festival, and also James Factor, who started doing NFTs, book vaults, but he's also a publisher at Lume Books. So I think that's going to be a really interesting event. I don't know how much you all know about NFTs, but be good to hear about that from him. But there's also the opportunity to network. We've got an agent ready workshop on the 8th for fiction with Julia Silk. And then we're doing a non-fiction one on the 2nd of February with Anna Palais. And then we've got our virtual agent tables on the 20th of January, and submissions are by the 30th of December. So please do sign up. We've still got some tickets left for that. And finally, I just wanted to mention our Bite Showcase. We are doing a short story competition, and it's £8 to enter, and half the profits will go to the winner. So enter. It's only 500 words, and we'll have a showcase event with readings. So yeah, please do come along. You can see lots of our upcoming events on the site, as you know. So have a look at those. So that's everything from me. I'm going to pin Kelly so that we can see her best, and then ask her to start. Good luck, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Justine. Thanks, Justine. Right, I'll just share my screen, and then hopefully, can everyone see this? So I find it quite hard to see the chat box while I'm presenting. So Justine, maybe you can keep an eye on if anything comes up that I need to kind of answer as and when. If you could do a shout out. As Justine said, there's a section at the end for questions. Hopefully I've left at least a good kind of 10 minutes or so we can have a chat. And then there's a couple of points as we go through this. I think there's still a few more people coming in, but I'll let you guys handle that. So this session is all about author mindset and the techniques to get you into the right headspace for writing. So what it's trying to address, if I can get my computer to actually do one. What I'm trying to help you with here in today's session is that moment where you sit down at your computer, you've got kind of a nice clear space in your day, your notebook's ready, a lovely hot cup of coffee, your computer's ready to go, you're ready to write, but you just can't do it. Something's blocking you, something's coming up. Maybe you're just really doubting yourself, or you haven't got any confidence in what you're doing. It might even be that you don't even make it to your computer and you're finding all sorts of other things to do other than sit down and write. And lots of things are blocking you. So that's really what this session is going to be about. But before we dig into that, I'll just quickly introduce myself. As Justine said, some of you might have already met me before. I've done a couple of sessions with Bite the Book on marketing, specifically on social media. I am a marketing mentor and confidence and mindset coach for authors. Very catchy title, but I can't work out how to sum it up any quicker. My background is in publishing. I spent a number of years at HarperCollins and at Hodder in the marketing departments, and also a brief time in magazines as well. I've always been about marketing and helping authors promote their books. And I've spent a long time since working for myself, working kind of one-to-one with authors, guiding them through their marketing. So talking them how to do, particularly on social media, so talking them through how to do their marketing and their social, and feeding back to them. But as I was doing that, I really felt that there was something missing a bit. And I've always thought, whenever I've kind of thought about the authors that I've worked with throughout my career, that actually it's such a strange profession, because you spend so much time kind of isolated when you're actually crafting your book and working on your book. You might be spending months or even years kind of sat alone writing your book, and then suddenly if things go well, you are thrust into having to be really confident and outgoing, pitching your book to editors and agents, maybe pitching to publishers. If it goes really well and you get a deal, then you might suddenly be needed to go and do events, and be kind of really out there kind of promoting yourself. And I thought that was quite interesting to look at kind of how you go from working on your own to being kind of really visible. I have parallels to that. So I'm not a author myself, but because I work for myself, and I've been working for myself now for about 7 years, I also spend a lot of time on my own. And then suddenly get thrust into situations where I have to talk in front of people, you know, a bit like this, or I've got to go and promote myself. And I've been working with a coach for a number of years now, and I just really noticed the difference that kind of mindset, support and advice gave me. And I really wanted to train in it. So I've spent this year training and coaching, and now I'm accredited with the Institute of Leadership and Management. And so, as well as helping authors with their marketing, I also coach them on their mindset. It could be a bit catchier, that that pitch. It takes a while to explain what I do. So anyway, let's dig into what we're here to talk about today. What are the things that are stopping you from writing? Well, I think probably most of the things that come up for people are in their mind, and it's their thoughts. A lot of the barriers are to do with your brain and the way your mindset is kind of operating currently. And I'm going to talk through how some of these things show up. So the first one is imposter syndrome, which is a phrase you may or may not have heard of. It's talked about quite a lot at the moment. I've actually kind of written down the definition, because this is defined as feelings of self-doubt and personal incompetence despite all your expertise, education and achievements. So even though you've got plenty of qualifications and you're really capable, there's still part of you that just doubts your abilities. So you might be thinking things like, you know, who am I to write a book? I'm just not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm not an expert. I'm going to get found out. And this is something that kind of comes through a lot, that sense of that you're a fraud and you're not really who you're setting out to be. Another thing that can come up quite often is fear of judgment. And I have this a lot, certainly with the authors that I work with on their marketing. This comes up a lot. I think almost all the authors that I've worked with have felt uncomfortable promoting themselves. They're slightly worried about coming across as salesy, or they feel that they might be kind of pushing their books too hard on people. And it's this sense of, you know, what are people going to think of me? What if people laugh at me? Will people think I'm showing off? Then there's comparisonitis. So I still haven't actually worked out if this is a made up word, but essentially this is when you're comparing yourself to other people. This is so easily done, particularly nowadays with social media, where you can see so easily what other people who are like you are up to and what they're achieving. And it's where you get really sucked into being so distracted what they're doing. So you might get to a stage where you're thinking, there's no point me writing my book, I'll never be as good as X. Or further down the line, maybe if you're already published, you might be really distracted by what another author is achieving. Maybe they are getting more sales than you, maybe their publisher is putting more support behind them. And this can throw up loads of kind of negative thoughts and can keep you quite distracted. Overwhelm is something that can come up a lot. This is the feeling of there's just too much to do. I don't know if any of you will kind of identify with this, but where your mind is absolutely racing with all the things that you think you should be thinking about. So when you sit down to write, you can't actually concentrate because there's just too much going on. So you want to write, but you're also thinking about, you know, have I done my social media? How am I going to market my book? Do I need a website? Do I need to do a newsletter? On the writing front, you might think, oh, I've got to write 1,000 words a day. How am I going to do that? You might be fast forwarding into the future of how am I going to get an agent? Will my editor like it? Or I've got to plan or research this bit. So it can just be too much. It's that kind of very busy head where there's just so much going on. You just simply don't know where to begin. The fear of failure comes up a lot. This sense of it's just not going to work. This is kind of very negative thought. This is in the whole kind of what's the point? It's never going to work. It's never going to be good enough. I'm going to fail. They seem quite intense, don't they? When you kind of put all of them together, it all feels really kind of negative. But these are all the things that can kind of crop up in your mind and slightly derail you. Underlying a lot of it, so when I coach the authors that I work with, I spend a lot of time looking at their limiting beliefs. So these are thoughts that we formed ourselves where we start to just believe them regardless of whether or not that they're true. So they're a state of mind or a conviction or a belief that you think is true, but it's limiting you in some way, and they can keep you kind of in a really negative place. They can come from all sorts of places. Often when I work with people, it's come from their past and their family. Maybe it's their upbringing. Maybe they've heard statements like, you know, people like us don't go on to have that kind of job. People like us don't grow up, you know, to be authors. It might be money mindset issues. You know, you just have to work so hard to make any money. It's just not kind of possible. It can come from your education. Maybe it's something that teachers have said to you, and it can come from life experiences. If you've had any kind of traumatic or certain events that have happened to you in your past, you might have formed a belief based on that isn't really true, but your kind of subconscious has started to believe that it is. So these might come up in your thoughts as things like, I'm not good enough. I just don't have enough time. It would take too long to write a book. I don't have enough time for that. It's too hard work. What's the point of even doing it? It will be too much hard work to do. It might be an age thing. I'm too old. I've kind of missed the boat. I'm too old to do this. It might be the other way around, where you think that you're too young because you haven't got enough experience behind you. I'm too young. This is something that people do when they're older. You might catch yourself thinking things like, oh, I could never do that. Yeah, that's good for them, but I can't do that. So I'm just curious at this point, if I can see the chat, whether any of this is resonating with anybody. Do you want to kind of pop in the chat if you recognise any of this in yourself? Okay, that's a good one. When you kind of trying to fit time in together, to fit time for it. I love that, Tom. So you've got both, feeling too old and too young. And the overwhelm, yeah, I think overwhelm can kind of come and go, and when it comes, it can be really derailing. Every category. I think in terms of the planning time, it's really thinking about kind of what you want to prioritize, and realizing why writing is so important to you, and making it a priority for yourself, and time blocking if you possibly can. So allocating, you know, maybe planning the week on a Sunday so you can allocate those slots of time to it. Okay, Emma. Yeah, I hear you. It's very hard if you're kind of writing full time as well.
Rachel has got a hand up, but I think I don't know that we've got time for questions. So Rachel, do you want to put something in the chat?
Was Rachel on the school run, I think, maybe? I have got some question time at the end. So shall we?
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for everyone for sharing, because it's really good to kind of get a sense of where you're all at. Okay, definitely. Oh, film. Right. Well, I'm glad that I'm glad that you're identifying it. I wish you weren't identifying with it, because it's much smoother when you kind of are coping with it. But it's good that it's kind of resonating. Right. I'll move on, and then there will be questions kind of towards the end. The other point that I wanted to make is that sometimes those thoughts don't appear as thoughts. So it might be that you're not actually thinking, I'm afraid of this, or it's going to go wrong. It might be cropping up for you in a different way. It might be that you're procrastinating. You're finding every possible reason not to sit down and write. It could be that you're really easily distracted. So you sit down and suddenly think, oh God, I haven't put the washing on. And you rush off and do that. And then you get distracted by a birthday present you need to sort. And it can show up, and I think particularly in the case of overwhelm, it can show up where you just lose your inspiration and your sense of creativity. So how can we turn it around? So I always start with the people that I work with, of making them actually think about your whole self. So as an author, you are your business. It's very hard to kind of separate the kind of author part of you with the rest of your being. And so that's why it's really important to take care of yourself. So it's about self-care, which is a term that is kind of used an awful lot at the moment and conjures up images of, bubble baths and candles. But I almost like to think of it as self-parenting. So kind of really looking after yourself and putting the basics in place. So before you start anything, are you taking good care of yourself? Are you eating well? Do you get exercise? Are you keeping hydrated? Are you getting plenty of sleep? Are you having time in nature? What brings you joy? So again, this ties into your self-care of giving yourself time to spend doing the things that light you up and make you happy. So you might think, oh my goodness, Kelly, I've already told you that I've already got too much to do. I can't fit in more things. But I would really encourage you to think of the things that you love doing that you could fit into your day. With the clients that I work on something called a joy list, where we kind of map out things that we really love to do, but that might take different periods of time. So some might be like a whole afternoon out to have coffee with a friend. Or I've put a picture of swimming in for you, Justine, because I know that's what gives you joy every day. But it also might be something that's really quick, like a 5-minute cup of coffee, a hot cup of coffee outside, standing in the garden, or just standing by an open window, anything that gives you a pause. And I would urge you to kind of build those into your day and your week, because that's going to really help your self-esteem and help your sense of positivity. And it's a bit like when you hear on an airplane about you put your own oxygen mask on first. You need to really look after yourself, so you're in a really good place to be able to help other people, but then also kind of focus on your work. And I think also doing these things helps feed your creativity. I don't know about you, but when I need to be creative or think of ideas, when I'm sat at my computer, they never come. And they always come when I'm doing something completely different and my mind is elsewhere. So this will help you from a creative point of view too. But onto the kind of mindset elements, and to talk about fear. So fear is a really normal emotion that everybody has. It's designed to protect us. It's doing its job. It's trying to keep us safe mentally and physically. It comes from, it's evolutionary in that it's originally designed to literally keep us safe from predators. So if you're staring down a lion, to kind of run and get out of there. But fear can also come up when it's your subconscious trying to protect you. So you might feel kind of really fearful of something. Maybe your subconscious is trying to protect you because you worry about being judged by others. Your fear is preventing you from getting in a situation where you can be judged. So that's why it's holding you back. You may have heard of the acronym fear is false evidence appearing real. And this is something that I would always urge you to kind of have a think about when you do have a fear or kind of a negative thought, to really question whether you think it's actually true. What is that thought really? Is the worst case scenario going to happen? When you think about something's going to go wrong, is it really going to go wrong? And if it does go wrong, will it be as bad as you think it is? So tied in with that is knowing that your thoughts aren't fact. Thoughts are thoughts, and they're there, and you can have any thoughts, but that doesn't mean just because you've thought about something that it's real. We've all got this kind of inner critic that's telling us it's going to go wrong, it's not going to work, it's feeding your mind kind of with all these negative thoughts. Before we started, I was telling Justine I've just had to take some paracetamol because my inner critic is going mad about this presentation and, you know, whether it would be good. We all have those moments. The trick is to know that it's always going to show up, but it's how you deal with it. You don't necessarily need to listen to it. And there's various techniques to do this. One that I particularly liked that I heard was to create a character around your inner critic. So you almost picture them as a separate person in your head. And the people, I wish I could remember their name, I can put it in some notes afterwards. The people who had this approach envisaged their inner critic as Estelle from Friends. I don't know if you know the character, but she's that kind of the slightly crazy Joey's agent who's always got...
She had the funny laugh.
Yeah, and she speaks, I can't do the impersonation, but she's like, Joey. And she's always got like a cigarette kind of hanging off. So she looks ridiculous. So then when she pops into the mind to kind of pop up with this is going to go wrong, or you're not good enough for this, you can almost look at it and think, well, that's not true. That's a bit ridiculous. Another way to do it is picture it as kind of a stage, and that person kind of walks on, they say their piece, and then they move on. So the trick is often to kind of thank, does sound kind of slightly mad, but to thank your inner voice for trying to keep you safe, because it's trying to do your job. So I know you're trying to point out something to help me, but I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to try my way now. Okay, and I'm going to come on to a practical in a moment now. So embrace gratitude. I think of all the positive habits I've put in my life and I recommend to others, gratitude is absolutely at the top of my list. It sounds like such a simple practice. Essentially, it is making a list of all the things that you are grateful for and the things that you've got right now in your life that are really positive. It really is a game changer. There's a huge amount of scientific kind of research and evidence to show the positive impact having a gratitude practice can have on you. It increases your self-esteem. It's been shown to increase happiness because you're focusing on all the things that you have got rather than worrying about what's not happened yet or what you haven't got yet. I think for me, crucially, it brings you to the present. So rather than worrying about the stage of your book of, you know, will anybody like it, or will my editor like it, or will the agent be pleased, or will I get an agent? You're just focusing on what you've got right now. So it's bringing you right back to the present. So you're not worrying about those problems that are in the future. So I start every day before I do anything else of thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for. And it's also a practice that can help negative thoughts or situations. So if something has come up which is a bit challenging, rather than feeling very negative about it, I'd invite you to kind of flip it and see if there's a way of taking gratitude or giving gratitude for that situation. So maybe you've come up to a stumbling block with your planning, or you're finding kind of a particular part of planning really, really challenging. Although it's getting you down, show it some gratitude, be grateful for the experience, because actually what that will mean is the next time you face this, you'll be much better prepared. It's giving you quite a valuable lesson on how to approach that task, and it will mean that you feel much more positive about things rather than negative. I love this quote by Eckhart Tolle, that acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. So as I've said, I do it daily, ideally in the morning if you possibly can, but if you're set up in your kind of daily life doesn't work that way, you can do it later on. Some people do it in the evening and reflect back on the day and look at the things that they're grateful for that have happened that day. as I said, there can also be challenging situations can be turned into gratitude. So what I'd love to do now, if we've got time, is just take kind of 3 to 4 minutes, if you've got a notebook handy, to just jot down, say 5 to 10 things that you can feel really positive and grateful for right now today. And if you've got any questions while you're doing that, feel free to pop them in the chat if I can find it. Oh, that's good, Nicole. Yes, I find that as well with me. And I think not only does it attract more good things, it makes you, I think it's because you recognize things and you're more aware of good things coming in. Sorry, I'm laughing at Bruno's comment that you have to run into the shower, Justine, every time you have an idea to write it down.
Bit of a bugger, the only notebook we have in the house. It's not true.
So I'm intrigued, how are you finding this? Are you finding it quite easy to come up with some things to put down, or are you finding it a bit tricky? Okay, that's good, Kathy. Oh, I love that, Justine. That's brilliant. Amazing. Okay, Sarah, so can you work on making them a bit more specific to you? I love that people have put invite the book. It's on my gratitude list too. Yes, and Derek, so I've had moments of that before. So it's the staying consistent is quite a challenge, and I think it's that you don't necessarily notice the impact it's making until you've stopped doing it, and it's very easy to kind of slip away. So trying to make it a bit of a habit is good. I love that, Helen. That's a really good flip. I haven't put that as a specific point in this talk, but that's something that I do kind of a lot as well with working with people. Always try to switch the situation, so turn a negative into a positive and flip it to see the kind of the benefit in something. Okay, so if everyone's happy, I will move on. Look good, right? Okay, so hand in hand with gratitudes are affirmations. So this is where you take action against those negative thoughts and you swap them for positive kind of mantras or affirmations. It's been shown that positive self-talk can really help alter your subconscious. So by writing really positive statements about yourself, you're gradually encouraging your mind to think different thoughts. You're changing your pattern of thinking. When I write affirmations, I try to read them out loud as well, because actually hearing something often makes you believe it more. So I would work on, once you've done your gratitudes kind of every day, I would work on 2 or 3 affirmations to counterbalance your negative thoughts. So I would tackle whatever's coming up for you as an issue currently and switch it to an affirmation. And have a play around with how it works. I tend to kind of stick to the same couple of affirmations for a period of time until that kind of really settles how I've been feeling about something, and then I move on. So try and make them personal to you based on what you're working on and what you're trying to achieve. Repeat them to yourselves a couple of times a day so that they become a mantra. Ideally say them out loud so you can hear them. And if you've got some that are particularly key, write them down and put them somewhere where you can see them. So if you're spending a lot of time at your desk, put them on a post-it note above your desk or on your laptop. It's really important that you create the ones for you so they work for you. But just to give you a few ideas, here are some that I thought may or may not kind of work for authors. It's all about really focusing on the negative thoughts that you want to counteract. So if we take another couple of minutes now, if you want to just kind of work on 1 or 2 affirmations that you think could work with you, and if you were feeling happy to share them in the chat, it would be brilliant to share them with other people.
Kelly, can you just go back to can you show us the slide with your affirmations, the ones, those suggestions?
Can I do that? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I love that you're all sharing tips in the chat as well. That's great. And the Pomodoro technique's really good.
Derek's quite a prolific writer. He writes a lot of books, so I'm impressed that he's
focused.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting that even people that write lots of books get blocked.
Yeah. Well, one of the authors that I've just finished working with is published by Hachette. I think she's on her 6th or 7th book and just reached a kind of a massive block and got stuck for a while. Who is, sorry, Timbo, I don't know.
It's Tim Preston.
Okay, Tim, that's really interesting. You said that about the impact of trauma and looking back. I think quite often you don't know what's blocking you until you really dig into it. And often if you get that kind of little sense of emotion, that's the kind of key of knowing that's the thing that needs to be kind of dug at a bit and sat with for a while. There's, on the subject of the Pomodoro technique as well, does anyone know about Brain FM, which is one of my favorite kind of apps? It's an app that plays, I don't quite understand the science behind it. It's basically wizardry, but it plays this very kind of special music, and you put in how long you want to concentrate for, and you put what type of work you're doing. So whether it's really deep concentration or you're studying or you're researching, or it can be a bit more relaxed, and you set the timer and you just play the music. And I swear it's like magic. I put it on for like an hour when I really need to concentrate, put my headphones on, and it just works. It blocks out anything else, and I get it done, and I keep going until the kind of music ends. Nicole, that's brilliant, that kind of 10-minute method. And actually that fits into something that I'm going to say in a few minutes. That's really good. So is anyone brave enough to share their affirmations that they've written?
They can speak them if they want to.
Yeah.
They don't have to write them. Is no one doing them? I can do one. I can do some if no one else is going to say them.
Okay.
I've got one.
You got one. Someone else should do it. Who's that,
So,
Derek?
Yeah. So the one I've written down two. The first one seems obvious, but it's worth saying. I've shown I can do this. So I've already done it 6 or 7 times, so I know I can. And then the second one is I'm writing a brilliant story. I think the background to that is part of what's holding me down is the focus is wide. I'm looking at, I do this story, I get this agent gets this deal gets this, and it's paralyzing me. I have the ideas, but I'm paralyzed by the idea of this line today has to trigger all of that.
Yeah.
So for me, a statement I think I need to say to myself every single day is effectively, screw all that. I'm just writing the story. Just do it.
That's fantastic. And also that's doing that thing of bringing it right back to the present. So you're not worried about all the other things. And probably for a lot of you, it brings it back to why you're in it in the first place. You didn't dream to become a writer because you wanted to negotiate with agents and, you know, the stress of the publishing process. You wanted to write brilliant things that people are going to enjoy. So I love that affirmation. JT, I write well, content that others love to read and can relate to it. Brilliant. My story needs to be told and I am the right person to tell the tale. That's fun. I love it. Great. It really helps you kind of stay focused on your mission or your purpose, and keeps everything really positive. Okay, so if no one else wants to share, I will move on and then we can do, yes, Rachel, that's a very good point. No one else can write this story. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, the fact that people connect with people. Everyone has a unique approach. You won't be liked by everybody, but there will be people who want your approach to something. So the fact that you can own your individual approach to something is so key. In the way that I'm very aware that there are lots of other people who support authors with their marketing. There are other people who coach, but they're not me. And I have my own kind of unique personality and characteristic and style that's going to work for some people and it's not going to work for others. Yeah. Okay, right. So I shall move on. Actually, I think, Derek, this ties in with your one of your affirmations. So like, look for the evidence. So and this is in 2 parts. So when you look back at the fears that you have or the limiting beliefs, look at the evidence that disproves that. So if you think I'm too old, my time's passed, I can't write a book, then go and look at all of those authors that you know and like who've published books your age, much older than you. Look for the kind of the evidence that counteracts your thought. Also use evidence to show that you're a great writer. So Derek, the fact that you've kind of, you know that you're a good writer and it's worked and you've done it before, that's your evidence to show that you can do it this time too. Create even a folder. So look through things like, if you're already published, reviews that you've had, Amazon reviews. By that I mean all the good positive ones, and just blinker to the negative ones, because you can't possibly please everybody. And people who write negative reviews, that says way more about them than it does about you. If you have had lovely feedback from friends or family, bottle that, write that down somewhere so you can keep it. If you've had a really great experience, if you've gone out on an event and you've met a reader, who just says, oh my God, I loved your book and it's had this impact on me. Again, bottle that, write it down so you can remember that. One of the authors that I work with had an ad that her publisher had done for one of her books framed and put on her desk to remind herself that her books are worthy of being promoted. So she must be a good writer. And this ties it, Rachel, I think it was you saying about the 10 minutes a day. So I've been hearing a lot from James Clear recently on lots of podcasts. He seems to kind of be really about at the moment. I don't know if you've read his book, Atomic Habits, which are all about kind of setting really good habits to kind of help your growth. But one of his tips is following the actions to make you embody the identity that you want. So if you want to be a successful author or an author, what are the habits that authors have that you can copy now? And you can start small and build up, which is, Rachel, why your example is perfect. So an example that I heard on this podcast was something completely unrelated, but somebody wanted to go to the gym every day for an hour. And they thought, that's impossible. How am I ever going to be able to go for an hour every day? That's mad. So what they started to do was they went to the gym every day for 5 minutes, which sounds a little bit ridiculous, but they would drive to the gym, park up, go in, be in there for like a couple of minutes, come home again. And they did that for a couple of months. But what that did was that formed them the habit of going to the gym. So from that point, it was easy to build up time-wise, so they could then do the next, for the next period of time, they did it for half an hour. And then they could build it up to the hour. So it's a bit like you're writing for 10 minutes. If that's perfect for now, because actually you're achieving so much, as you say, all the cumulative impact of that is huge. But if you wanted to build it up, because you're in that habit of writing for 10 minutes every day, it would be relatively easy to gradually increase that. So think about the habits that the person you want to be has, and try and develop them. The other thing that James Clear says, or one of the many things that he says, but I think is particularly relevant of Bite the Book, for Bite the Book, is it's all about seeking out your people. Put yourself in a community with other people who are trying to do the same thing as you, so that you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are all exhibiting the kind of behavior that you want. So I think it's all fantastic that you're here as kind of members of Bite the Book, because that's exactly it. You're putting yourself in a community where you are surrounding yourself with other authors who are really committed to what they're doing and growing. Get present. This is hard to do. It's very easy to let our minds kind of race forward. This is a big tip around the whole overwhelm. You can kind of approach that with things like kind of writing lists, prioritizing, working out what you have to do right now. But getting present is really bringing everything back to right this moment, this kind of period of time that I'm sat at my desk. There are techniques that can help you. You might want to try little meditations or moments of mindfulness. It might be as simple as sitting down and doing some kind of some deep breathing and kind of connecting with the ground and just feeling kind of grounded to get right into the moment. And then you focus on right now. So you don't worry about all the things that might happen in 8 months' time or 6 months' time or next week. All you need to focus on is what is your next step? What is the one thing you need to do to move forward slightly from where you are now? And it's the same with kind of procrastination. Just do one thing just to move things forward just a little bit. So you're kind of making progress and you're moving forward. And you'll find that as you start to do that, it will then get easier to do the next steps. Coming back to comparisonitis, please don't judge yourself against other people. This really is the root to just feeling really rubbish about yourself. And there is, what other people do, you have literally no control over. So spending your time worrying about how you compare to them is a complete waste of your time, because you can't kind of affect anything that they do. It's very, very easy to do, particularly with social media, and everyone's kind of promoting what they're doing and what they're about. The thing I would say about social media is, and I've kind of put it here, but there's another quote about it, is if you compare yourself to what people are doing on social media, not only are you comparing yourself to somebody else, but you're not even comparing yourself to a true reality of them. They've put a post up that they've designed to kind of promote themselves. So it's perfectly curated, or it's a really great photograph of them in a particular moment. You don't know the whole picture. That's what they've decided they want to kind of present to the world. So you might be comparing your true self with their kind of artificial self. And also everyone's on a different point of their journey. You might be comparing yourself to someone who's been at this for 20 years. So much, much longer for you. If you're looking at follower numbers, oh, sorry. You know, if you're looking at someone's follower numbers, maybe they've been on the social media channel for 5 years longer than you have. So just really focus on yourself. This is where kind of gratitude really comes in. So you can just focus on your journey and what you're doing. I have sometimes, I think everyone's kind of human, and it's very easy to slip into kind of looking at what other people are doing. For me, if I'm being particularly triggered by people, I mute them. If it's on social media, I either unfollow them, or if I can't unfollow them because they'll know, I'll just mute them and just silence it, so I don't actually have to see what they're doing, so that I am not distracted by what they're offering, what they're doing. I'm just focusing on myself. So putting it all together, so now there's an awful lot that we've covered here, and I don't expect you to necessarily be able to do kind of everything all in one go, but it's quite helpful to have the kind of some of the key components. What I would start with, if you possibly can, is around the gratitudes and affirmations, because that really does make a difference in moving you to a positive place. If you can create a morning routine, if your day is set up to do that, I really would, because it would start your day really positively. And do your gratitudes and your affirmations before you have any input from the external world. So don't look at your phones, don't look at the news. I think if you kind of wake up and you look at your phone, within minutes you've had like 1,000 different messages to your brain. If you've looked at the news, it's never very positive, is it? You're already kind of going into a negative space. If you're triggered by what other people do, you've probably seen 5 posts of other people talking about their stuff. So it just starts your day very negatively. If you can be, I like to think of it as a bit like a Shire horse, where you're wearing those kind of blinker things so you can only look forward. If you can be blinker to everything else, focus on yourself just for a period in the morning where you do your gratitude and affirmations, plan out your day if you can, and the few tasks that you have to get done. Concentrate only on today, so you're staying very kind of present, and try if you can to build in a bit of time for you, so you've taken care of that self-care. And in the evening, I just had to add this: go to bed at a sensible time. I'm kind of a firm believer that everything starts with making sure you've had enough sleep. So put that into. So that's kind of everything that I had prepared. So I'll open it up for kind of, we've got a few minutes for some questions. I'll just see what people have put in chat.
You want to close down your the presentation bit for a bit,
yeah,
so we can see everybody?
Yeah, and then I'll come back, because then I can share my stuff at the end. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a couple of questions. We had one question at the beginning from Helen and one from Kathy.
Okay.
So does Helen want to ask a question? Where is she? There you go. There you go, Helen. Kathy's was quite similar, but we'll ask you to go first, and then Kathy can tell us if we answered her.
Yes, she had made a start. You had made a start on answering that question, which was about. It's quite difficult. I know I'm not going to give up doing other things, because they are equally important to me as my writing, or essentials. So it's about trying to compartmentalize things and get to the point where you can just turn the focus away from those things and not get pulled back into it.
Yeah, how do you compartmentalize, Kelly?
By planning. So one of the things I would do, if you can, is block out your week. I don't know if you use kind of electronic calendar or a diary, but really map out your week. It's called time blocking. So maybe take time on Sunday to really map out what you're going to do on which day. So you've allocated your 2 hours in the week to writing, or whatever you give to it, then you need to really protect your boundaries. So you have to be ready to protect it. So if someone comes and says, do you want to go for a cup of coffee? You need to work out what's more important. And if getting the writing done is important, then you have to say no to the cup of coffee. So you have to kind of protect that. Time becomes precious and you have to protect it. And then when you go into that moment, I think it's about maybe a few techniques to get really present. So breathing, maybe you could do like a few minute, I don't know if you've got like the Calm app, which does very, very short kind of meditations. You could try that for a couple of minutes. You could try your breathing just to really bring you into the space. And then there's a couple of techniques. So we mentioned earlier, so there's the Pomodoro technique, which is where I think it's for 25 minutes. You set a timer, 25 minutes, where you just work on one thing, only one thing. And then when the timer goes off, you can have a 5-minute break. Or there's the Brain FM app that I mentioned, where you can set like an hour and just concentrate on that, and you switch your phone off and you don't look at your emails. That's how I would approach it. You
That's
just
great.
you have to be very fierce with your boundaries, very protective of them.
That helped, Helen.
Yeah, phone off
Good.
is a bit tricky one, but I think I should do it more than I do.
I sometimes have the phone off for a whole day. I did it on Saturday. And even though I didn't do writing, it was just good mentally to not have your phone, just thinking about social media and stuff like that. And
the thing about the phone and email is, if people are phoning you and emailing you and you're responding, you're jumping to their agenda, not to yours. It's about taking control and setting what your agenda for yourself is, and having the self-worth and self-belief that you deserve to be able to dictate how you're going to spend your time. And they will wait an hour to wait to talk to someone on the phone is perfectly acceptable.
In the US, on average, people get 262 telephonic interruptions a day. And even more interestingly, the recovery time for that to optimal performance is 25 minutes. So just do the math around that. Each day you're losing 2.5 days because of the interruptions in one day.
I think they did a test as well about like, even if can you put your phone in another room. So when you go and sit to write, put your mobile phone in another room, because you don't need it. you can live without it for an hour, and then you're not even tempted, because even actually just having it sat next to your desk means it's just so easy to go, oh, I'll just have a quick look on Instagram. And then, as you say, you've broken your concentration and it takes a while to get back.
Also, the things like the social media apps that you use a lot on your phone, you should make it so it's difficult to find them. So the guy that did that Atomic Habits thing said, so I put my Facebook and Instagram on 3 pages behind. So I have to consciously get there, and I know what I'm doing when I'm getting there.
Yeah, or delete them, or you can get apps that will lock you out of your phone for a particular period of time.
Yeah. You mentioned the Calm app. We also have Insight Timers, which is free, another meditation app, which I recommend. We had another question from Kathy. Unfortunately, she says she's got a lot of background noise, so she can't ask it herself. But she said, how do we get going on writing when you only have an hour here or there, which is a bit like Nicole mentioned, but it might be interesting to talk about that, because I think it's not the same as compartmentalizing. Actually, it's about just doing it.
Yeah, I think it's still about planning it. So although you might only have an hour here or there, trying to roughly plan when that might happen, so you can then approach it in the ways that we've just talked about. Or maybe it's a case of leaving yourself when you finish, when you've had a writing moment and you've finished, maybe leave yourself some notes about what are the next few things that you know are only going to take you an hour. Maybe I've got to write up this conversation, or maybe I've got to write this piece that will only take an hour. So when you suddenly do have that hour, you can look at the list and go, oh, right, that should be about an hour. I'll tackle that bit, so you can get straight in. I do think there's benefit of doing something that will change your state from when you're going from one task to another. So like I said about meditation or breathing, it could be I don't know, play a loud song and have a bit of a dance in your kitchen, just something to really kind of change tempo, rather than literally closing one document and opening another one.
I wonder whether it's also about perception. I think an hour is an awfully long time to write, actually. I can't write that well for an hour. I usually write for half an hour or 45 minutes, but I might do it a couple of times a day. So I think whole books can be written in an hour here and there. And also having not finishing your sentence when you finish your writing, so that when you start up again, a bit like your notes, you start up by finishing the end of the sentence.
Yeah. And actually I would flip it. So like Helen is saying that you write 10 minutes a day. So
it was Nicole said it. Nicole said it.
Sorry,
yeah.
Keep up with who's saying what in chat, but the 10 minutes a day. So flip thinking I've only got an hour or two a week to do any writing, work out, well, that's 2 hours a week, there's 52 weeks of the year, that's actually a lot of writing time. So change the way you view it in your mind of, isn't it great, I've got 2 hours this week, then I can do some writing. So you come at it ready to win rather than already kind of in a negative space of there's not enough time and I've only got 2 hours.
We could go on forever and ever, couldn't we? We've got a couple of minutes left. I think Kelly, well, we're all going to get Kelly's contact details, and maybe you'll get in touch with her if you have some questions. Did you have a couple of things you wanted to say at the end, Kelly?
Yes, I was just going to share, if I can get it to come back on, just if anyone is kind of curious about kind of working with me further, or you need more support after this, I've just launched, it's very, very new, I only launched it last week, a free Facebook group, which is called, again, another catchy title, Creating Confident Authors, Mindset, Marketing and Momentum. And I'm trying to do a balance between kind of giving you marketing support and tips, but also this mindset work, and trying to help keep you kind of accountable and momentum. So do come along and join that. I'd love to have you in there. The main way I work with people is through one-to-one coaching and mentoring. As I said, the mentoring often focuses on the marketing, and I take people through the process on how to do their social media and set up their channels and understand their audience. The coaching is working with people really on the topics that we've discussed here. Coaching is very much just trying to get someone from A to B and helping them burst through their kind of blocks. And I can do that too, or I do a combination of the two. So I've got some lovely kind of feedback from people. So normally to work with me, it's £1,500 for 6 sessions. So we do 6 hour-long sessions on Zoom. We can either do them weekly or fortnightly. So potentially we work together for up to 3 months. And throughout that time, you have full email support from me. So if you want to run things past me, or you want to pick my brains on something, I'm always at the end of an email, as well as our calls. But I wanted to do something kind of special for you guys who've taken the time to join today. So I'm doing an offer. I've got 2 spaces available that I'll do for £995. So that gives a £500 discount for anyone who's been on the call today. If you book by the end of the month, which I think is next Tuesday. And I'm also going to offer 10% off my prices up until the end of January for Bite the Book members. So if you do want to kind of tackle particular things or hit the road kind of at full speed for 2022, let me know. And my email's there. I always start with a bit of a chat on the phone anyway, to make sure that we're a good fit. It's very important if you're investing in work like this, that you feel connection with the person you're working with and that you're comfortable with them. So I always start with a kind of a quick chat to just make sure we're a good fit. That's
brilliant.
It.
Thank you. So I think the only thing to say now, we've just come on over a minute. We try and be quite exact on time there, but that was absolutely brilliant, Kelly, and also everyone that joined in and gave tips and said how great Bite the Book was. but how we all help each other, and it really, I was quite moved during that. I didn't cry, but I felt a little bit teary thinking about how special our community is and how great it is that we're there to support each other. So thank you so much, Kelly. We're going to give you a round of applause if you want to unmute yourselves and just thank you so much. We'll put up your little hand to clap away. But that was wonderful. So hope to see you all next week at our surgery, or our Bite Connects. And lovely to have you here today. Thank you so much. And it's just been absolutely brilliant. There'll be a recording of this on the site if you want to remind yourselves of it. And we'll also have a transcript that will go out to everybody, so you'll see all the tips that are going in the app. I've downloaded the writing app. you mentioned, the Right FM or whatever it was.
Brain
it
FM.
Brain FM? Brain FM. It looks great.
I'd echo what you're saying, Justine, of just thank you so much for everyone for really kind of taking part in the chat and swapping tips, because it's been fantastic to kind of see that it's resonating and that you've got lots of ideas and that it's been helpful.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks. I'm going to stop the recording now, but thank you so much, everyone.